your feel-good breakfast show. Welcome back. This is Espresso, and it is the month of love. It is upon us. But has it become obsolete? That's the question we are asking. Indeed, Valentine's Day can be an incredibly expensive holiday to celebrate, buying pricey jewelry, flowers, and the wining and dining that goes with it at a nice restaurant. That might not even help your relationship, and it could even harm it. Now, Valentine's Day also leaves people in relationships with impossible expectations, and it tends to exclude single people. Now, today we chat about the month of love, featuring the relationship architect Shelley Lewin, as well as clinical psychologist Clint Maggott. Now, if you have thoughts of, perhaps, or experiences that you'd love to share with us, feel free to drop us a voice note. Our number is 063 408 8863. We would love to hear from you. Good morning.
Good morning.
And don't be shy on the questions, man. I actually would love for you to challenge them with some questions around love. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. Sure. So just the concept of Valentine's Day being obsolete, all right? Perhaps it's the socioeconomics of where we are. We are in South Africa, Why get chocolates when you can get petrol? So what is the idea with regard to, I'm sorry, think about the most romantic thing you could do for someone right now. It'd be like, baby, I'm going to fill your tank.
Yes.
Baby, are you serious? That's what it's going to be like. But in terms of this concept of it being obsolete, do you think that's the case? Do you think Cupid's arrow is just missing us in this day and age?
Carl, I think that, as with all things, Valentine's Day could evolve with our times.
Yeah.
And it could do with a bit of a rebrand. If we think about 30 years ago, we were watching the A-Team and Knight Rider, and we thought that was unbelievable television. And, so our times have evolved.
Yes.
We were living very politically incorrect lives compared to current standards. And I think that it was reserved for heterosexual couples. It needs to evolve. It needs to be more inclusive.
Absolutely.
And actually, can you imagine if Valentine's Day evolved to be a day where we celebrate the best of what humanity has to offer, and everyone was there to be there, to have a day to bring their best self, to celebrate love and kindness, and imagine every single person did one random act of kindness to share their love with whoever, in whatever capacity they could, based on the circumstances that they had. Imagine a day like that in the world.
Yes, please. I like that advocacy, and I believe that it should be a public holiday.
Well, Clint, we look at the calendar, we get Christmas, New Year's, then back to school, then everyone's like, oh, it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
What are some of those anxieties that comes with the 14th of February?
It does come very quickly. I felt like I just got back to work and I was like, oh, there's Christmas decorations when I left, and all of a sudden there's Valentine's things. So, I think it's often also just coming off to January, which financially for people is not always the best time of the year. I think there's this expectation for Valentine's Day to be grand.
Yeah.
And, expensive, and often, how much money you spend is equated to kind of how much you kind of love somebody. And so often there's just too much pressure, right?
Yeah.
Each time this kind of comes around, you have to be more creative, more inventive, and people don't enjoy it. The fun of it will get taken away. The meaning of it also gets kind of washed out. And so often people either give up on it, and it's just like, this is the easiest prepackaged thing I got at the store, and here you go, this is for you today. Or they just kind of, go with it, but they're not really enjoying it because they're too worried that everything needs to be perfect.
Perfection.
That is.
I blame social media for that, to be fair. Social media has caused such a great rift in our understanding of different concepts. Sure. Back in the day, remember, we could send a letter around class that we've written with a bit of a rhyme to it and impress somebody. Now we just place a heart on their comment. and I'm just saying, things have changed. So, do you think, Shelley, that social media has almost diluted understanding of love?
Well, I would say what social media has done has brought a huge amount of pressure. Clint said two words that really stood out for me, and the one was grand and pressure. And I think that influencers and content creators, there's a huge pressure to deliver something spectacular and they're all trying to outdo each other. And then the regular folk look at this, and we feel like, oh my goodness me, what am I going to do? How am I going to keep up with this? And what can I do to deliver?
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're watching these things and people lose track of and lose perspective of reality and think that that's reality. But social media it's a performance, it's a show, you know. The purpose is not to be authentic and real, it's to be entertaining and aspirational. And I think the average person forgets that. So they're comparing what their partner has done to what the content creators and influencers out there are doing it.
And that's exactly what it is. It's content creation. They are putting it up. They're creating the content. It's not reality. Well, we are not going anywhere. Clint and Shelley, they are staying with us as we continue this conversation. If you would love to weigh in, perhaps you have some questions, let us know. This is the time to send those voice notes through. Our number is 063-408-8863. We'll be back shortly.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to Feel Good Breakfast Show. This is Espresso and you're live in S3. We're back with our panel discussing the month of love. You have to say it that way for some reason. Does Valentine's Day make your heart flutter? Does it make your liver quiver? Does it make you roll your eyes in disgust as well? I mean, that's fine too. We're joined again by the relationship architect, the person that provides beautiful love scaffolding to so many. Shelley Lewin is here, along with clinical psychologist and love doctor. I've just given him that name. Clint Maggott is here as well to discuss the relevance of Valentine's Day in society today. Now, if you have thoughts or some experiences on love, feel free to drop us a voice today. And please don't be shy. You know, we are a family show. 063-408-8863 as we continue some probing questions about love. Oh, yeah.
Shelley, a Facebook study recently revealed that breakup statuses tend to increase often after Valentine's Day. So obviously people breaking up after the big day instead of before. Do you perhaps know why that is the case?
Gosh, that's fascinating.
Right. Now we do our research.
Why would that be the case?
Well, I would imagine possibly one of two things, perhaps. Either that people stick it out even if they're unhappy in a relationship, because what would you post on Valentine's Day if you weren't in a relationship? So it's worth sticking it out for that. Or because they realized on Valentine's Day how much little thought and effort went into making their partner feel special or loved, and they, you know, perhaps had a whole lot of expectations about what they were going to receive or experience on Valentine's Day, and it just did not meet the grade. So, you know, zero effort, no planning, no thoughtfulness, those kinds of things are just not going to cut it for many people if you really place high priority on Valentine's Day. So that's, I imagine, what would be a reason for a stat like that.
I think about the word capitalism in my head. And before we get onto that, we got a message from Jocelyn. Thank you very much, Jocelyn, because you're always ready for a voice. So let's take a listen to this for a second.
A very good morning to my Espresso family. I'm not into Valentine's Day because, you know what, this is a money-making thing. It's been commercialized. And you know what, I've been spoiled often with some chocolates and roses from my husband. So yeah, that is just my opinion. Thank you, Jocelyn. Have about it. Bye.
Thank you. And that's great. And I'm glad you shared your opinion, you know, with regard to businesses, corporations, this time of year. They capitalize on this thing. Also, we mentioned earlier that it feels like it's alienating people who are single.
Sure.
Which now creates this other type of pressure in society where I should be coupled up on a day like this. Everything around me is that way. So I feel that there's a lot of pressure on that. But then there's also this concept of emotional porn, which is what these capitalists enjoy riding on in order for them to make their buck. So let's unpack that for a second. This concept called emotional porn.
Yeah, just be careful when you Google it to add.
No.
definition.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're not going to go into Urban Dictionary with it. We're going to go rather onto the, you know, the understanding in the context of Valentine's Day. But you know, for anybody who'd like to understand what that blueprint is like for, you know, capitalism.
I mean, I suppose the idea for me would be, if you compared it to normal porn,
yes,
the idea would be that what you're depicting is an unrealistic and kind of exaggerated version of something that's actually quite real and authentic, right?
Yes.
So the idea is that emotional porn, it's portraying ideas around love and connection and affection.
Yeah.
But it's on such a level that it's unreal.
Yes.
Right? And it's fun to consume, it's fun to kind of like engage in, but what it does eventually is going to distort your sense and your expectations, right?
Yes, true.
And so the problem with that is then the idea that you're trying to meet, either within a couple or even single, is going to create a little bit of panic in you, right? So for me, there's enough of this kind of information coming through, either through influencers or just from corporations kind of putting it out, that this is what this day is about. And the expectations then are obviously just very, very high.
Yeah.
Definitely.
They got us.
It is about the expectations. And Shelley, I feel like we've touched on this briefly where, especially in a heterosexual context, the woman is very excited about the day and put these high expectations on, and often the men carry the anxiety and the brunt of it all. Why do you think that is the case?
Well, it's back to this idea of it being outdated. This is before we had dual income families.
Yes.
This is before we had equality of the sexes. This is before LGBTQ was mainstream. So our world has evolved, and it needs to evolve if it wants, it can become almost this very distasteful thing that people don't enjoy and like, because it feels like it's this very commercial, I'm being pushed and forced into something that I don't really want to participate in. Or it can evolve, and I think that if there was a couple of really smart, like big brands out there, they could really turn it into, to reinvent it and to make it mean something else and really make it valid and relevant for our times and celebrate love and kindness more than this romantic idea of boy and girl and, the responsibility of a male towards a female or something.
I like this concept a lot, and that's what I'm saying should be a public holiday. It should be actually a self-love day. But that's why we need to discuss reframing Valentine's Day with our panel in the next couple of moments. So if you have any questions, any ideas to spark the reframing, 063-408-8863, as Ryle covers a very important topic. Can abs make you feel more loved?
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Back, it is your Feel Good Breakfast Show, and we are back with our panel discussing the month of love. Romantic or irrelevant? That is the question. Now, we are joined again by the Relationship Architect Shelley Lewin, as well as clinical psychologist Clint Maggott, to discuss the relevance of Valentine's Day in society today. Now, if you have thoughts or experiences that you'd love to share with us, feel free to send us a voice note. Our number is 063-408-8863. Now, before we finished, we did say maybe it's time we need to re-look at the way Valentine's Day is. Clint, how can we start by reframing Valentine's Day to be not so cheesy?
I think that, as in relationships in general, lowering expectations is probably a good idea. I think we all come into relationships with probably too high expectations. And so for the day as well, you don't want to have your expectations too high. It should be an opportunity. I think for long-term couples, it's often not a bad thing. Like Valentine's Day almost is like a bit of a prompt of like, hey, we should do maybe one of those grand things that we used to. But I think for all of us, it should be more inclusive about what we mean by love, right? So normally, as you were saying earlier, Shelley, love doesn't have to be just this romantic couple, big gesture. It could also be about friendship, connection, family, and it could be a day that you celebrate love in other forms. And so I think on that day, singles should be getting together, they should be having parties with friends. It should be a lot more about, instead of just two kind of pairing off all the time. And so for me, that would be the kind of direction to go in. And like I say, it should be a fun thing, a playful thing, not taken too seriously.
That's important. Now, before we get into how we can actually, manifest and do meaningful acts of love on Valentine's Day and reframe, we have a voice note that came through. Let's take a listen to this.
Good morning, Expresso team. Mrs. Nirmala Devi Murli of Amkumas. Indeed, it's overrated. Why we say, I love you, only on the 14th of February? No, it doesn't work that way. I love you 365 days of the year, as long as there's a heartbeat and there's a breath you take that can say those 3 beautiful words. Why become commercialized and only believe on that particular day, I got to get you a gift? It doesn't make sense. I am your gift in love. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Yeah, like, can I tell you, I feel like you rehearsed that. That was so beautiful. It was so smooth. And I mean, that's just what we love. And I love you, by the way, for sending that voice note. But let's talk about the meaningful ways to express ourselves on Valentine's Day while we reframe. In fact, this is like a massive public service announcement to reframe the meaning behind our actions on Valentine's Day, to not pair off all the time and alienate those who are perhaps not in those types of relationships as well. I'd love to explore meaningful expression. What do you think are some good ideas for us to take with us into the 14th of Feb this year?
Well, Carl, I feel like I want to break out into song. I'm a bit nervous because I'm probably the worst singer on the planet, but the new song with Miley Cyrus, Flowers, I can buy myself flowers, I can write my name in the sand.
You better keep on singing.
I can hold my own hand.
I can hold my own hand. I can love myself better than you can.
Yes.
You know? So the whole point is show yourself some love, do something that's soul nourishing for yourself. And if not for yourself, if you need it more, that's great. Or do the best random act of kindness that you can do that fits your life and where you're at the moment, and just bring the best of your humanity to the community around you.
I love that too, because what about those charities you support? Can we not do romantic gestures to the charities around us and send through those sorts of gifts? I mean, that would be lovely.
Yeah,
you know?
That to me is the way that the world needs a day like that. We don't need a day of pressure, added pressure to deliver some unrealistic expectation that Hollywood has, you know, commercialized, and it's time to make it more authentic and real and reflective of our times.
And to definitely break away from that. Well, we have one more voice note that we would love to listen to. Good morning.
Good morning, Espresso team and everybody else in the country that's watching and overseas on YouTube. Yeah, I think Valentine's Day is a bit overrated. Every day should be Valentine's Day. And I mean, try and buy a bunch of flowers on Valentine's Day. Let's say 5 roses will cost you 200 Rand. The next day, the same 5 roses will cost you 20 Rand or 50 Rand. So it is a money-making thing. I just believe every single day should be a Valentine's Day. Love the one that you love every day as if it's the last day.
Thank you, Yaku Brits, for that voice note. I mean, this has been an incredible chat. I love that we have, you know, said that the notion of Valentine's Day needs to, it's a bit outdated. But just some closing remarks from both of you. How can we approach, I mean, the 14th of Feb is coming along. Society hasn't caught up to the idea that, you know, it's a commercialized day. How can we enjoy the 14th of Feb without feeling any pressure, whether you're in a relationship or not?
So, I mean, I think in listening to what Jaco was saying as well, like I was just thinking, like, you know, as a couple, you can make your own rules. You can go, we're not spending any money. This is the budget. Maybe we're just going to skip it this year. It's just Tuesday. Do you know what I mean? I think it's on Tuesday.
Yes.
And so there's lots of ways that as a couple, you can just like kind of have discussions and talk about this. You don't necessarily need to follow the default. And then I really like, again, what Shelley was saying, that, and just to add this idea of like, you can expand on what, you know, love is going to be. And it's not only about what you receive on that day, but also what you can give. So, you know, you can be generous with other people. And I was just thinking, like, I remember at school, they used to put on like a play or a fashion show. And it was just like celebrative. It was just like a fun time. And I really feel like there's a lot of that, you know what I mean? Like there needs to be a lot more around this that's just a lot more playful and fun, and kind of remember that as opposed to it needing to be something perfect.
Even the school was kind of like a money-making scheme, because I paid 5 Rand to wear it.
Yeah.
to be fair. So I felt that too. But thank you so much for reframing Valentine's Day.
Yeah, just manage expectations,
Yeah.
really, so that you're not disappointing anyone and they don't have any unmet needs that's going to cause a big drama at the end of the day.
That's so true. Save the money. Write each other letters. I feel like that's something that we need to continue to do, right? That's going to be beautiful. Thank you so much.
Clint, Shelley, thank you so much for joining us today. And there you have it. If you still want to be part of our conversation, our voice note line is open. It's 063 408 8863.